Welcome to Dark Knight Films Reviews. I'm your host, Matt Spease, and today we're doing another ranking video, this time martial arts films. Now, this list will consist of films in which the martial arts leads to a big final tournament to decide either a champion or decide, who's the king of the fighters or whatever. So, no movies in which it's got martial arts and action like, something like Rumble in the Bronx or something like that, where it's just a straight action film. This will not have any of that. So, with that out of the way, what do you think of your list of martial arts films of this kind? Leave comments down below and let me know what you think. Give me your list. If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe, because it really does help the channel out a lot. Now, let's get to the start of the list. This might be a controversial one, but number 10 is The Karate Kid, 1984. The reason Karate Kid is so far down on my list here is because there are no real stakes in this film. It is not to where the end of this thing in this final tournament, the fate of the world stands in the balance, or there is, life and death, anything like that. This tournament here is just an under 18, and it's not even a full contact tournament. I mean, they can only strike from the chest to the stomach, which counts. If anything where you're sweeping, taking out the leg, or kicking in the face, or punching in the face, you're disqualified, or you're deducted a point, depending on what you do. Now, the problem with that is it's inconsistent. There is really some bad stuff that happens near the end in the final contest with Daniel and Johnny. And let's be honest here. William Zabka worked his ass off to look like the best fighter in the world in this film. I mean, he looks great. I mean, his martial arts in this film is crisp. He looks good. He never looks like, just some young kid in this. Even though he is. In fact, he was younger than Ralph Macchio in this film. But he didn't look it. But his martial arts skills is crisper and better than Macchio's as Daniel's, which makes sense, because in this film, Macchio's character is just now learning martial arts, so he is not the Karate Kid of the title at the beginning. So, even later, whenever they do Cobra Kai, I still think Zabka has Macchio beat as far as sheer martial arts. It is apparent that William Zabka has maintained his martial arts and has continued to train and work on his skills over the years. Macchio, it didn't look like he did. So, when it comes to the final fight in Karate Kid. Like I said, there's no real... I mean, it is just a under 18 little tournament for these youngsters, and there's yeah, you can, they're going to win a trophy. Yeah, and it's a feel good story to win this. There's no real big, huge stakes if somebody wins or somebody loses in this thing. And I'll be honest, I mean, yeah, I mean, you see Macchio's character get taken out on his leg. Johnny Lawrence's friend gets disqualified. But it seems to have eliminated Daniel from the tournament, which it doesn't. Mr. Miyagi helps him, and he comes back out to fight for the final fight with Johnny. Then you have a moment where Johnny punches him in the face, and he doesn't get a point because that's against the rules. This is not a full contact karate championship. So, what happens at the end of the film? Daniel kicks Johnny in the face, and he's awarded the win. He gets a point. What sense does that make? What's the point for Johnny punching Daniel in the face, but then you give a point to Daniel for kicking Johnny in the face? So, yeah, that fight should have still been going on, and eventually I think Johnny would have won it. Because, to me, he was the superior fighter. He was screwed at the end of this movie, which, in Cobra Kai, I love it, how they come out and he actually says it, Johnny does, and it's not him being bitter, that's the truth. That was an illegal move. And he got awarded a point for it. He was given a win on a fluke. So that's why this is low on my list. There's no stakes to it, and the ending was bullshit. So, number 9, Bloodfist from 1989. This was the first of the martial arts films for Don the Dragon Wilson, one of the great martial artists actually competing in competition at the time, when he made the transition from competition and into making films.
It's vengeance you live for. It is vengeance you die for.
And he was joined in this film by the equally amazing martial artist in Billy Blanks. And the fights in this film are amazing and really good, and the tournament is a really exciting tournament. So, yeah, this one, to me, it's not one of the best films, and none of Don the Dragon Wilson's movies were ever really that, some of his action, more martial arts films maybe got a little better than Bloodfist, but this was probably his best as far as competition and fighting, because most of the other Bloodfist films after this one, there were many sequels to this. I think Bloodfist 2 was the only one that actually returned him to tournament-style setting, whereas most of the other ones would just start more of an action martial arts film. But this one was a really good film. It had a really good tournament, like I said. And not much more I can say about this one. It was a really good film. even for a low-budget film. This is a lot more low-budget than a lot of the other movies on this list. Coming in at number 8, this one's going to be controversial for a lot of people, I know, but it's Mortal Kombat from 1995. Now, I love the Mortal Kombat games, and this film, I went and seen it in the theaters, and I loved it when it came out, but when you go back and you watch this for the, thinking of how this tournament really goes, it's not a very good movie following this tournament. It doesn't make much sense. The characters win fights, and some of them aren't even tournament fights. I mean, there's one where Johnny fights Scorpion, and it's not even looking like it's a part of the fight. And same way with Liu Kang and Sub-Zero fighting. It's just, these fights don't look like they're part of the tournament. There's nobody watching it. There's, it's not in front of the crowd, unlike the scene with the Lean character supposedly fighting Goro and just getting destroyed, and the later Johnny Cage Goro fight, So I love the cast. Robin Shou is a kick-ass Liu Kang. He was a great choice to play that character. Linden Ashby is great as Johnny Cage. Cary-Hiroyuki Tagawa is excellent as Shang Tsung.
Treasure these moments as if they were your last. And now for a taste of things to come.
And then you have, a pretty good performance by Christopher Lambert as Raiden in there, where his only problem I ever had with Christopher Lambert is that sometimes his dialogue, he's not, because of his accent, he can be where you can't understand some of his dialogue. But he was pretty fun in his portrayal of Raiden in this. He was a good counterbalance to Cary's Shang Tsung. And then you have Trevor Goddard, who is amazing as Kano, and he was so good in this film that even the game, Ed Boon and the rest of his game makers on Mortal Kombat later games made the Kano character voice like Trevor Goddard played him. So his performance is great while he's in there.
So then he freezes this guy, right? And then he explodes. I could see his guts and everything. Almost lost my lunch.
Disgusting.
Nah. Anyway, guy gives me the creeps. A treasure of these moments.
But one of the worst performances in here is Bridget Wilson as Sonya Blade. And I don't understand it. I really don't. She played in The Last Action Hero as Arnold Schwarzenegger's daughter before this. And she had some fight scenes that she just kicked ass. She looked awesome in those fight sequences. She comes into this film and she just looks the worst out of all of the actors supposed to be these badasses that they're playing. I mean, her fighting skills, she looks like she's a novice. She is horrible in here. So I don't understand what happened there, how she went from looking so good in one movie before this, and then all of a sudden just, looking like you have no martial arts skills at all. And her fight scene with Kano was a sheer sign of that. I mean, it was what should have been this kick-ass fight scene between these two rivals ended up being just lackluster. And then later on, the way she's portrayed, she is just captured by Shang Tsung and used, like the damsel in distress that has to be rescued. It's not how the Sonya Blade character was in the games, and it's not how she should have been in this movie. But the tournament, like I said, there's characters win, but there's no real. Like I said, most of the fights don't look like they're in a tournament, and you don't know why the hell they fought and how the hell they advanced, why they're fighting, who they're fighting. So yeah, it's the tournament part of this was just, that's why it's so low on my list. It wasn't structured very well in the film, but it's still a damn good film. Coming in at number 7, we have Kickboxer from 1989. Kickboxer stars Jean-Claude Van Damme in one of his earlier films. And Jean-Claude Van Damme is one of those actors who is like Christopher Lambert. In his early career, he was not used to the English, speaking fully English, so his accent kind of messes with his performance and doesn't. And he wasn't very experienced as an actor coming in from martial arts into acting. So some performances for him early, like this one, he's not the greatest of actors in there. The film around him here, with Dennis Chan's character training him because his brother was paralyzed. Jean-Claude Van Damme's character, Kurt's brother, Eric, is paralyzed by Michael Quissey's Tong Po. And he wants to enter this tournament to get revenge on Tong Po for what he did to his brother. The problem with this film is most of the stuff with Dennis Chan and Van Damme is pretty good. The problem is your villain, Michael Quissey, as Tong Po. He is just a one-note villain he doesn't have much to him as far as depth. So whenever it comes to the final fight, he's just substandard villain. Who cares? You know the good guy is going to beat him because, he's got no range to his performance. He's just stereotypical villain. But the final fight is pretty damn good in there. So, and the tournament is done really well in the film. So, that's why that's my number 7. Coming in at number 6, we have Best of the Best from 1989. Now, this movie does the tournament setting really well. And it is a, full contact karate championship, unlike Karate Kid. And these are adults in here. The karate teams are facing each other in a tournament, and everything. And it is portrayed so good. And you have the coach, played by James Earl Jones, excellently played in here.
A team is not a team if you don't give a damn about one another.
He gives a great performance as the coach, coaching his team. Then you have Eric Roberts playing the basic leader of this the team here.
This is the only thing I know I am good at. Don't take that away from me.
You have Phillip Rhee as the basic. He's really the most badass martial artist on this team.
I'm afraid. You need this fight bad. You need this fight for you, man.
And then, of course, you have Chris Penn, who's really good as the tough Texan character in there.
You going number 1 or number 2? Trust Dad.
And it just works so well with this team of guys having to get along and fight in this tournament together as a team, because it's a team thing. And the performances are so good. And Simon Rhee plays on the opposite side with the Korean team, I believe it is. And he is excellent in there as the he's not, unlike Michael Quissy in Kickboxer, he is not portrayed as a stereotypical villain. He even though they do have that thing where it looks like a revenge thing, because Simon Rhee's character has killed Phillip Rhee's brother character in there. Ironically, these guys, I believe, were real brothers, Simon and Phillip, but they're not playing like they're related to each other in this film. But this was such a great film. Great performances all around the board in this thing. It is one of the best martial arts films. Now, they made sequels to these, with Best of the Best 2, and I could have put Best of the Best 2 on here, but to me, that one was more of an action kind of a thing, even though they did have a tournament in it, but it went a little bit overboard, I believe, in some ways in its tournament. So I consider Best of the Best 89 the better of the films. Coming in at number 5, we have Bloodsport from 1988. Now, this is another Van Damme movie, but this time he's playing Frank Dux. And it was portrayed at the time when this movie was made as being this factual thing about a real tournament that really happened, that the real Frank Dux was involved in. But it's been since, proven that this guy is a total fake. And it was all lies. Never happened. And none of his achievements that he claims that he did ever really happened. But that doesn't hurt this story. This is still a really good martial arts tournament style film. And it has a really good cast. I mean, you have Jean-Claude Van Damme, you have Bolo Yeung playing the main bad guy, and you have Donald Gibb, who before this he was known for Revenge of the Nerds, and then you have Forrest Whitaker in there as well, and it's just a really good cast in this film. The tournament plays really well leading up to the final fight between Van Damme and Bolo Yeung. And that final fight, I think it rivals the fight between Van Damme and Michael Quissy in Kickboxer. That's why I put this one higher on my list. I think with the additional cast members, it's got a better cast than Kickboxer. It's not because I think it's historically accurate and I think it's a really good story based on this factual man's story, because I don't buy any of his story. His story was bullshit. So, Bloodsport 1988 is my number 5 pick. Coming in at number 4, this might be another controversial one, but I put Kickboxer Vengeance from 2016. Now, this film is basically a remake of Kickboxer 1989, but Van Damme comes back and plays this time plays almost like the Dennis Chan character of playing the trainer. But he's a completely different character because he's not Asian. He's not trying to play an Asian. So he trains Kurt Sloan. And this time, Eric is killed by Tong Po. And Tong Po is played excellently by Dave Bautista, who gives a great layered performance as Tong Po, giving you what we should have gotten with the original film. The original film was brought out in 89, so I mean they were more just wanting the villain to be just a straight up villain. There was no characterization for this character at all. Whereas Kickboxer Vengeance actually lets Dave Bautista show range for the character and show that he's not just some evil character, and he didn't intentionally go out there and try and kill Eric, and he feels no remorse for what he did.
Your brother was brave. Your brother was a warrior.
I mean, he's a really good fleshed out character as opposed to the original film, and that is why I put this higher on my list. And Lane Mulan, the one that plays Kurt in this, he's a very talented martial artist. So when it comes to the final fight scene between him and Dave Bautista, it is a pretty badass final fight. So, and the tournament is pretty well done. So that is my number 4. Coming in at number 3, we have Undisputed 3 Redemption from 2010.
This film is a direct sequel to Undisputed 2,
which starred Michael Jai White as the hero, and he had to fight at the end Scott Adkins as this villainous Russian character, Boykin. Well, in Undisputed 3, you have a role reversal there, and Boykin, Scott Adkins' character, is now turned into a reluctant hero, and you're following him as he's competing in this tournament in prison. And it is, I mean, Scott Adkins is an amazing martial artist, and he doesn't get enough credit as an actor as well. He's very good, and he is very good in this film. It is a very good martial arts film, and the final, the tournament, throughout the tournament, it's just one great fight right after another. It is one of the better tournament films of its kind. Coming in at number 2, we have Warrior from 2011. Warrior, I mean, it has a great cast, and the performances in this thing for being, a tournament fighting film, and this one's MMA more than just straight martial arts, but it is very good character study and great performances. You have Tom Hardy, you have Joel Edgerton, you have Nick Nolte, you have Jennifer Morrison, you have Frank Grillo, you have Kurt Angle playing this one of the best fighters in the world in this tournament is Kove. And then, of course, you have Kevin Dunn playing in it as well. It's just got such a good cast, and they play so well in this film. And the final fight scenes between both Tom Hardy, Joel Edgerton, and, of course, Kurt Angle himself, being an Olympic gold medalist in wrestling, his brutality in his fight scene is, I mean, he looks like he could be an MMA fighter, even though he ended up going on to be a professional wrestler. Kurt Angle is very good in this film, even though he has really no dialogue because he's supposed to be playing a Russian, so he, couldn't speak in it because I doubt Kurt Angle knows how to do a really good Russian accent. But this film, I mean, that and then the final fight between Joel Edgerton and Tom Hardy is just, this is one of the best acted. This is more of a melodrama based around a MMA tournament, which is very unique and is a very great film. And it deserves to be at the top of this list, I believe. And coming in at number 1, I'm sure any of you who know, since it hasn't been mentioned yet, what this is going to be. Enter the Dragon from 1973. This movie was released the same year that I was born. That, in and of itself, makes it a special film for me. Ironically, it's bittersweet because it's the last completed film that Bruce Lee did. This film, the tournament aspect to it is kind of takes a backseat to some of the rest of the story, but it is so well done, and they have so many good actors in here with not only Bruce Lee, but you have John Saxon, who you never expect to see in a martial arts film. But he is really good in this, acting alongside Bruce. And then you have Jim Kelly and Bolo Yeung, once again, in here. And then you have your main villain, Shin Kien, as Han. And he is so intense with his performance in there. He's the... I think he was the inspiration probably for Cary-Hiroyuki Tagawa whenever he played Shang Tsung in Mortal Kombat. And for good reason. He gives such a great performance as Han.
You have offended my family, and you have offended the Shaolin Temple.
This main villain character, and make no mistake, he doesn't have a lot of character development, but this film has such good stuff with Bruce, John Saxton, Jim Kelly, and everybody else that it stands out as one of the greatest martial arts tournament films of all time. And there is nothing more that I can say about this film. It is the greatest martial arts film ever, in my opinion. So do you agree with my list? You do not, and you want to list your own, go into the comments down below and let me know what you think is your top 10 martial arts films. And as always, if you like this video, please like, share, subscribe. And I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.